Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Imagination Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tony Blair. This podcast is sponsored by the PhD and THD programs at Kairos University. We're exploring anything that involves the imagination with the understanding, the foundational assumption that it is God who has created our imaginations. And yes, while they can lead us astray at times, their primary purpose is to help us see more clearly, more deeply, more fully what God is up to in the world. So this spring in particular, I've been chatting with some people that are expanding our imagination in some very creative ways in a whole variety of sectors. And today's guest is no exception to that. In fact, I get the sense that he's done this for a lifetime in a variety of ways in his professional career. Um, Dr. Alin Vrancila, if you help me correct that spelling, I have
Perfect.
been trying for
Great.
years to get this right, is an alumnus of this program. He earned his PhD with Kairos University very recently, did a fascinating study that is being published as a book, and that's the reason I wanted to invite him on. But he's also lived this out professionally. He's president-elect of how we say, Life College
Life
University
College. Life College International.
International in the Philippines. He was a vice
Yes.
president of Multnomah Bible College in Oregon, which is where we first met. And
Mhm.
so he is, we're talking about pedagogy, or a new word that he has created for us today to help move this along. And he's not just been, this is not just theoretical. Alin has been helping people do this and reimagining as a professional educator
Mhm.
for quite some time. So I'm going to I have all sorts of questions to ask you about this because I love educational philosophy and I love what you were doing in your work in the program, what you're doing since. But I'm going to throw it to you maybe to give the initial explanation of that, as well as anything else you'd like to add about your own story or how you've come to this question.
Well, first of all, I would like to apologize for my voice. I lost my voice 2 days ago. Our kids, we have four children, and we moved in Manila in the end of January of this year. And one of my kids got sick, and so as you know, sharing is caring, and that's where the story goes. But even with all this, I am excited and thankful to our Lord for the ability to come in and discuss with whatever voice I have left this very important subject of pedagogy in the age of AI, what I call neogogy. And one of the early feedbacks that came in the doctoral program, and I was so blessed to actually go through such an advanced and well designed doctoral program that allowed and really didn't constrain or inhibit exploring any subject and really pushing the body of knowledge forward. So very thankful for that, Dr. Blair. But the earliest feedback that came, and I remember a comment that you've made in one of my early presentations that stayed with me. That was brilliant. It said, "What about the new pedagogy coming after you? Why is yours neogogy? Isn't that just a new pedagogy? Aren't there not going to be new pedagogies?" And I'm like, exactly. So basically, it's signaling that all 30 some pedagogies that we have right now in practice, all of them were created before the launching, the public launching of artificial intelligence. We've had artificial intelligence for a long time, but the 2022 groundbreaking launching of the public artificial intelligence and to the consumption, the public consumption, um, all the pedagogies right now have been created before that moment. So what I'm signaling with neogogy is not necessarily the formation of a very articulate pedagogy, even though I go through extreme lengths in my book to establish a future vision of what a pedagogy like that would look like. But it was signaling that we have resetted the clock, that what we've done, the Nick Bostrom used to say, we keep putting our hand in the urn of innovation and we keep pulling stuff out without thinking of the consequences of what we're taking when we innovate. That I'm signaling that we have pulled a ball out of this urn that has resetted significant portions of our humanity, of teaching and learning, of formation, and of course of human imagination.
So this is not just adding another pedagogy to the list. And
Yes.
we could talk about that, some
Completely.
of the history, if that would be helpful along the way. And I've done some of that and have been around long enough to see some of these new forms develop. But I think I hear you saying that this is not just a new pedagogy. This is a new perspective. This is a new way of looking at things. And you're bringing together these diverse fields. I hear a lot of anthropology in this. What is the nature of humanity? AI raises that
Yes.
question for us. But then
Yeah.
the next question then is, well, then how do humans learn and grow and are formed? And what
Mhm.
role then does this thing, I think erroneously labeled artificial intelligence, what role could that play in helping us become, dare I say it, more human?
So I'm really happy you're bringing this up early on in the conversation. And by the way, everything you shared in the introduction is accurate. I am fully moved in Manila. My wife and I have 4 children. We moved here in January, and I get to lead a very innovative institution called Life College International, life.edu.ph. And Life College International is an opportunity to really rethink. So I'm taking Neogogy, this new pedagogy in the age of AI, and we are incorporating it almost a startup university that is really trying to portray itself and position itself as a global player, a Christian university, but open to the world. So unapologetically Christian in what we do, but we do want to reach all continents and do it with an AI infused learning management system or university. So it's quite groundbreaking. It's out there. The team we have is excellent. It's quite a global team, and the two things I'm trying to do with Neogoji is one, signal the groundbreaking shift that has happened with AI, that I have a feeling sometimes churches and universities are at the bottom pole of change. We
Mm-hmm.
speak about change the most, but we are the last ones to change. We are the ones that hold on. And I see even churches, but a lot of universities, the initial reaction was fear. The initial reaction is holding on to what we believe. We try to kill this with policy. We try to do everything we can. People are still talking about plagiarism and how to deal with that. And what I'm signaling is, I believe
And
there's
can I?
four.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm
please,
sorry to
please,
interrupt that, but I talked
let's
about
do it.
this in a little thing I did a couple weeks ago. So I add this just to the mix here. I wonder sometimes if we have equal but opposite reactions. On the one hand, there is the one that you're calling attention to, which is the reaction of fear. The other trend I see, particularly in North American Christianity in the colleges and churches, is what you were alluding to earlier. Sometimes we are so pragmatic, so entrepreneurial that we grab hold of an idea, we take it out of the urn without ever having
Yes,
thought it through. And therefore,
yes,
they end up with consequences we did not intend, and the next generation has to come along and clean up our mess. And
yes.
that I think is the opposite end of the spectrum. And I think what I hear you saying is let us not be afraid, but let us also not be impulsive about this.
Yes. And the reason is, if you look at the marketplace, so I write a weekly blog focusing on artificial intelligence in education and in world. So I'm paying attention to every move that's happening. The investment in artificial intelligence has been exponential, and it's been explosive. So you're looking at billions of dollars that have been poured into it, but yet right now with zero, close to zero to under 10% impact in the economy. So
Mm,
so yes, people are overreacting. They know it's going to get big. They know it's going to do something, but the actual quantifiable impact into the marketplace, into the economy, into businesses right now is insignificant. So you have this exactly what you're pointing out. People are reacting strongly. They're already making predictions. They're already putting their money into it, but yet is not really caught up with the marketplace. What I'm signaling is still there's four major in the modern history events that have really changed our lifestyle and the way we think. It was the steam engine. It was electricity. It was computer, the formation of computer, and I really believe I'm putting AI right there with these three other transformational events in the modern era, in the way people work, in the way people think, in the way people explain themselves. We have used now technology to explain our humanity. His brain is like a computer, he's like a steam engine, he never, right? So we are now defining our humanity in relation to technology, and we've done it for a while. AI is taking this to a whole different level. So on one end, Neogogi is trying to say we have to pay attention. Let's not hyperventilate. Let's
Mhm.
not under evaluate what's happening. Let's have a robust, realistic view of what is the impact today, but what could be the impact tomorrow. And I believe when computers move to LLMs, which is large language model, the key word there is language. Um, John Lennox, in his book 2084, I highly recommend the book. He says the emphasis right now is on artificial, not intelligence.
Yeah.
But I would say the emphasis should be on language. When the computers now mimic human language, the first area to be taken over is education. That's why it's education the first and the lowest, basically in the bottom feeder, archive here. The reason it is because now computers are mimicking human language, and you're having a conversation with your computer. So that's what we're looking at the first. The second one, the second purpose of Neogogi is to retain our humanity as the center of teaching and learning, to not give up and really abdicate the role of the human in the center of it. But without articulating it right now, what's happening in the teaching and learning area is grieving to me. MIT already coined the term cognitive debt, and it's not a financial debt. It's worse than a financial debt. It's a debt you will never be able to pay off. So if you are now outsourcing your thinking, especially to
Yeah.
generative AI, you are accumulating cognitive debt to the point that you will never be able to recover that level of thinking and analysis and cognitive ability for the rest of your life. So there
And if
is
we
a
do that collectively, humanity just gets dumber.
So it's basically, and this is the first generation in the history of record humanity that this generation is not smarter than the generation before. That we are actually seeing a decrease in the intelligence and the human intelligence because of the access and unrestricted access to technology and technologies. So I'm being very specific in the way that I tackle the discussion of humanity and the role it plays in this age.
Yeah, this is lovely. One of the things I'm going to back up for a moment here. And again, don't let me put words in your mouth, but this is as
Yes.
we were talking. This is what I'm responding to internally. We have always used humans have always used technology to learn to help us learn. A
Yes.
book, the book is a technology. It's an
Yes.
artificial thing that we hold in our hands. The whiteboard is a technology. I'm old enough to remember mimeographs and overhead projectors and informal learning kind of environments. That hasn't changed. If
No.
the argument is that we shouldn't use technology because we lose something of humanity, no, that technology all along has helped us become
Yes.
more aware of our humanity. The question is, I think, how we use it, how we do not give away our humanity in the process, but actually can help us develop a deeper, more robust anthropology. You seem very optimistic. Is that the word for it? Hopeful that maybe there's a
Um,
way forward to do this.
so I'm going to use a more precise approach to this. The word I've used in my dissertation was agatocacological. And I've imported this word from a very old movie. And agatocacological, it comes from agatos and kakos. So the Greek agatos, which means good, and kakos, which means evil. But it's such a beautiful word. It says it's agatocacological means you cannot separate the good from evil. They come together as a package. So I believe we have reached a place of agatocacological technology where even if we try and we want to, it's almost impossible to separate the good that comes with technology with some of the evil components of it. The approach that I have is more what Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were doing in exile. We as
Hmm.
Christians, we really are exiled people. We've been, the moment Jesus said, I am sending you in the middle of a nation that will do to you what is done to me, will not recognize you. If they've done this to the prophet, they will do this to the disciples. And you are now sheep in the middle of a very foreign land. What they did, they were 10 times better of the Chaldean philosophy than the Chaldeans themselves. Well, if you look at the Chaldean philosophy, that was at the base of it was witchcraft. And so I'm thinking, oh, that didn't work for some Jewish young men. Why would they better the Chaldean philosophy? Now, I'm not putting synonyms between AI and witchcraft. What I am saying is that they understood the times so well that they've used the Chaldean philosophy to get to a point where King Nebuchadnezzar could say, "There's no other God but the God of Shaddai." So I am considering AI a very strong responsibility of Christians, especially Christians in the tech field, philosophy, theology, to tackle one of the largest inventions in modern history or in all of history, where we are now. And I would signal this. The reason I'm saying this is most AI tools these days have been built by transhumanists, unapologetic transhumanists. People that believe that humanity is obsolete, that we now need to evolve to humanity 2.0. We in humanity plus Nick Bostrom in that kind of group there have a manifesto on their website that say that their goal is to actually move humanity to a different level. And I'm thinking, how ignorant of us, how absolutely ignorant that we have not even embraced our humanity fully and we're ready to abdicate it and to surrender it to technology, right? And I'm thinking
Well,
you have,
maybe that's a
yeah,
direct consequence of this reductionist anthropology that our world has been offering us for generations. And we
yes,
Christians, I'm sorry, this is one of my
yes,
tangents, so I'll get it out of me and then get back.
please,
We Christians have not, we have this more robust, holistic understanding of the human person, and we have not offered that to the world as good news.
hmm,
We too have often been reductionist. So, yes, if you regard
yes,
humanity as
yes,
this little thing in a box, then let's use technology to make us bigger. But if we start with this understanding of humans in the image and likeness of a great God, with a more
yes.
holistic understanding, then we don't need to become something else. We need to become more fully ourselves.
Yes, yes, and embrace the constraints. Um, Technology, I am signaling another important thing that there's been a shift in the use of technology and how technology is being used in the age of AI. Technology from the leaves, when Adam and Eve, Dr. James Spencer, um, a great friend and mentor in life,
He
used to
was
say that
also a Kairos faculty mentor.
Carl Ross
Yes, your
faculty
mentor.
member, he says technology is an amplifier, right? And so basically, Adam and Eve realize that they're naked, and they used a form of technology to cover their nakedness. There's a tension there. Technology was used to amplify and to really complete something that they were lacking when they sinned. So the moment they came out of the presence of God, technology has always been an amplifier of human need and a complementer. So we use glasses. You and I are both using the technology here to really signal that we're not in Eden anymore, that we are broken and we have some brokenness, that we need to use some level of technology and innovation to complement what we're doing. And technology has always been,
Just so you know, James
yes,
came at that point in one of our sessions here last fall to the same audience. It was fascinating and provocative. Thank you for reminding us of that.
yes, no, I take my cues from him when it comes to the theological lens, and I look to theologians. I'm more of a pedagogist myself and technologist, but I look to theologians to truly understand the depth of how to actually tackle this and what to keep in this agatocacological age. What is something that we need to redeem? What is redeemable? And what is something that we need to call out and say, for example, I'll give you an example. I just had a meeting with pastors, a network of pastors invited me to speak on AI. And I said, if I can give you a practical advice, is you can use AI for your sermons, but never use generative AI. Use agentic AI if you want to. Do not abdicate because generative AI is created in such a way to create a bubble around you and to respond to your needs and to be really responsive and to tell you what you want to hear
Yeah, it's always
every time.
so wonderfully complimentary.
Right. So it's always like, oh, you're doing fantastic. Well, you're not doing this sermon is not the best. So you need agentic AI that is the difference between Tooth Fairy and a workhorse. You give it a task, and instead of spending 17 hours in a library because you didn't even know where to start, you say, can you augment and really organize these resources? Tell me what books have the most readers on this, and it does the actual work without giving you any fluff or not generating any hallucinations. So practically looking and saying, what can we redeem and what can we call in our congregations, in our work? I spent a lot of time in youth ministry. There's kids spending 7 to 9 hours a day talking to Chat GPT, which is generative AI.
Um,
And that becomes priest, counselor, teacher, friend, and it creates Google moved us into what a psychologist called attention economy, and AI is moving into intimacy economy. Now people will use our intimacy, the most sacred place of humanity, our our feelings, our emotions, our secrets, our the naked space of belonging. Friedman used to talk about that. The naked and is now used for commodity. So
yeah,
we need to call that out and say, even in education, even in what we do, there will be some things that, based on the true, the good, and the beautiful, we cannot do, and we will not engage in that kind of behavior in our education or churches.
let's talk about what we can do. One
Yes.
of the things you talk about is as the primary point is how AI can facilitate our learning, and particularly the speed at which that can occur. Now, you're one of the fastest learners, or at least one of the fastest assemblers of learning I've ever met. It was incredible how fast, but you had done a lot of this ahead of time. What's this
Yes.
tension between the longitudinal nature of learning and formation and well, not what's the tension? How do we address this tension between that and the speed with which AI can generate
Yes.
new combinations of things and to help us learn? How do we manage that?
So great question. One thing that we should look at first is how fast AI has developed itself.
Mm,
So in when Sam Altman he casted a vision on where OpenAI is going to go. 2022, they started with level one chatbots. So the ability for you to just have a conversation, basic conversation. Hey, how are you? I'm fine, great. Just a conversation. Level two, so he didn't put a timestamp on this. He said, these are the 5 levels where I think things are going to go. Level two was reasoners, human level problem solving. Then level three was agentic, systems that can take action, significant progress, experimental system, early agents, moving beyond narrow tasks that you give it. Level four was innovators, AI that can aid in invention. So AI that you can give it a task and it can create an entire thing for you. It can run a part of your operation. And level five is organizations.
I had AI create a an app for me a couple months ago. So yeah,
Yes.
it did a
So
lousy
then,
job, but it could do it.
yes. And then, so he says level five is where organizations, AI that can do the work of an entire organization. This was his vision. So 2022, that basically for until the end of times that AI is going to get there, where we are almost at level four in
Um,
4 years. So so clearly the speed to market, the how fast skills and human cognition now changes, that has already been taken over. So even with the greatest luxury that we would give ourselves to say true learning takes time, that is now being questioned. So that's because of the fast of how the level of how fast the technology is developing itself, putting pressure on what AI can do on its own. So that's one. Two, the key word I think that is making a world of a difference is, for the first time in the history of humanity, we can do personalized one-on-one type of education at scale. So we imagine British type of education where you had a tutor,
Mhm.
that the royal family could afford to hire you just a tutor for yourself, or seven tutors just for yourself. We now can replicate that at scale. And I'm talking for 50,000, 100,000 students. Life College International can grow from the number of students we have right now to 100,000 students in record time. That has not been possible before. And all of those students can individually learn at their own pace. And that's why I called my book Pedagogy Learning at the Speed of Mind. Now, the only limit we have is how fast somebody can train their mind to really capture information, assess it, analyze it, and go through the Bloom taxonomy, I believe, way faster than we've ever done in the history of our world. We don't know the effects of this. We don't understand it. So the way we organize our learning using AI is we are limiting AI to do the low order teaching, low order content. So nothing that has to do with high order thinking or high order learning. So when it comes to analyzing, assessing, creating, that is given to a
Generating.
human and it's dedicated just to the human. AI, the first thing that AI did was not necessarily to show what it can do and how strong AI is, but rather to shed a strong light on the cracks of our education already. And it really showed that the way we did industrial type of education at
Yes.
scale was really not working anymore. And that's why
Yes.
it was we were primed to be taken over, but I'm sad that we don't have guardrails yet. I'm sad that we don't have a lot of philosophy of education, ethical considerations into how this is coming. I went to ASU GSV, one of the largest conferences at the intersection of technology, business, and education. San Diego, there were 2,000 companies on AI for learning that have submitted their ideas to join the ASU Cup, which is the most reputable thing. 2,000 companies that are already taking education over. And these are
Wow.
not pedagogists, they're not ethicists, they're not, most of them are not coming from a faith background. And yet they've developed a lot of tools and a lot of software to take on the world of education. That's
So they can
concerning.
market something that will help us cognitively, but what we Christians offer alongside of this is, for lack of a better word, we have wisdom, among other
Yes,
things that we
yes,
can offer. This idea of an individualized learning path. I mean, this is music to our ears at Kairos. This is
yes,
part of our
yes.
passion. Now we've done it largely through a mentor team and in a particular context, and we're still going
Mhm.
to get to learning goals, but we can treat the individual um,
Yes.
as an individual and not necessarily as having to herd everybody into a group and make everybody do the same learning path. But we're relying primarily still on human agents being the one to direct that. And what you're suggesting here is that AI can come alongside of those human agents and perhaps make it even more individualized and perhaps facilitate that process in some ways that we humans would not necessarily be able to do.
Yes, and I am happy to give a very unofficial preview that we are actually partnering with Kairos in the future to combine the power of our AI development and the uniqueness and the sacred modality of learning from Kairos, which is mentor based, hyper personalized, and really looking at the unique value individual. Because when I taught online for 15 years, I felt that 80% of what I was doing was gymnastics. Professor, where's my syllabus? Well, maybe it's under the button that says syllabus. Right. So doing all these administrative tasks, and it really took away the heart and the passion for just spending time with the person and seeing them. Because
Yeah.
every 80% of what I was doing, this is what AI is now taking over and saying if AI can do that job for you, it will take it from you. So, what is something that AI will never be able to replicate? And I really believe is that face to face, that time and space based interaction of humans where we see each other. Somebody said that I loved so much in the Samaritan's parable. It was the wound that was made by human hands could only be healed by human hands. It was the hands that broke the man, and there was another hand that came and touched the man and really healed and put him on his horse and put him on donkey and healed. So that level of human touch, of being in the same space
Yeah.
and helping each other, it cannot be replicated.
And that's what gets me excited about this. And I didn't know if that partnership was, or that conversations, at least for public knowledge or not. So thank you for saying I didn't want to do that. But that's what I'm enjoying right now about AI. It takes on, for me at least, some of the administration. This image behind me was generated by AI. I would not have been able to do that. Yay, okay, it took care of that and did it fairly quickly, but frees me up to do what it is that I do best as both a pastor and as a professor, as somebody who's dedicated to the learning process. It can allow me to be more myself because I'm not taking care of these other things that distract me from what it is that God has given me to do in this world. I love that vision of it.
Yes.
I see much the same thing. And again, I go back as a historian. When writing was developed, it allowed people to be more human and more in relationship with one another because suddenly you could send a letter instead of having to send yourself in order to have a conversation
Yes.
with somebody. And your voice could show up in somebody's life hundreds of miles away. And thus we have the New Testament. If we did not have that technology, there would not have been the possibility of those relationships being established or maintained. We know from history that some of these things can work. We also know that horrible things can be written and they can destroy people. So we have
Yes.
both aspects of this written in created in every technology that we do. I want to talk about this for the next hour, and I see our time to finish is pretty well done. I'm going to give you the last word here, Alin. What have we not talked about that you would want to make sure we put on the table today?
So I want to bring to attention the fact that there's a lot of hype around AI. There's a lot that is actually happening, but there's also a lot of hype. And I would love our audience to keep an eye on the three types of AIs that are out there. There is ANI, AGI, and ASI. Right now, so ANI, narrow AI, is weak AI. And that's the only AI in existence. Let me just, I want to say this again for the people in the front. That's the only AI in existence. So ANI performs single tasks exceptionally well. Emails, filters, Netflix recommendation. This is the AI we use every day. Operates under predefined constraints. It's a very sophisticated computer program, right? So the emphasis is truly is on artificial. It's a high computational power, a lot of data, small decision making, right? But just to take away the hype, general AI, so AGI, strong AI, doesn't exist. That's human level intelligence across all tasks. But that's the blurred line where we think right now things are going. Personally, I think in our lifetime we might achieve AGI. That would be the
In
time
our
where
lifetime, not the next
in
24 months.
I, I think in our lifetime, I think it's way more complex to achieve than the hype is sharing. Potentially, that could be achieved. I personally am in the camp that believes that we'll never achieve super intelligence, and that is intelligence or computation intelligence that surpasses human intelligence across all fields. We feel that right now because AI can generate a poem in 10 seconds. We're all doing that, but it's only doing what it was programmed to do. It's not
And it's
generating
mimicking
one
humans.
original thought, not one.
Yeah,
A
it's
one-year
just
old baby is infinitely more intelligent than the best computer right now. So just let's be careful with information we communicate, especially in the body of Christ, how we treat it. We're already giving the God factor to AI, and we're the weak AI. Imagine if we ever achieve general AI or, God forbid, super intelligence AI. What would that do to the way we refer to each other or the way we basically abdicate or submit our humanity to this kind of technology? So that's the concluding thought that I wanted to share with the audience.
thank you. Again, the historian in me is seeing the patterns there. When the Industrial Revolution came along, human beings were treated as a production unit. and we became disposable in many ways. And I think part of the reason for the reduction of humanity is Industrial Revolution did a number on us and reduced our humanity. AI could do the same, and particularly
Yes.
when when if it would get to those other levels, can also help us reclaim our humanity. Could help us formed in a way that is fuller and deeper and richer if we use it well. Thank you for being imaginative and not fearful, and giving us ways to imagine what could be. And if somebody wanted to tap in, when is your book coming out, or where if they
It's
want to tap
out.
into
It's
your
out on Amazon
resources?
already. The book is already
Okay,
out. Yes.
I
Neogogy.
still
Neogogy.
it autocorrect. It probably did this in my communication with you. It autocorrects to neology, and
Yes.
I have to keep checking. It's Neogogy. It is on Amazon.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I had an
Yes,
early
it is.
draft of it, and they can find you also at your web address,
Yes. AlinVrancila.com.
and I will post that along with this podcast for those who will be interested in going to that. Thank you, Alin. We might have to
Thank
come
you so
back and talk
much.
some more at some point. I will note for those of you that are listening to this later, or even for those of you who are live with us, it is almost the middle of the night where Alin is, and he stayed up late in order to be able to chat with us today, and I'm very very grateful. We have voices from around the world, and he is one of those that is willing to go wherever the spirit leads in order to make it to help make happen what the spirit is doing in the world. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that in you, Alin.
Thank you so much.